And I like that attitude.
Yeah.
Nothing else to do. All right, I'll
Yeah, you
introduce you.
can't. I mean, once you make music, and personally, I started um, on this cassette 4 track
Yeah.
that I still use here. Uh, I started when I was maybe 14. So at that point, there is no thought of how you could ever possibly get into the big time industry and make it or be successful. You just make music so that you can maybe find a band and play in a band. And you don't really even know what that means. You don't know about
Right.
clubs. You don't know about booking. You don't know about opening slots. You don't know anything. You just want to be in a band. And then if you can record yourself, uh, then it becomes this emotional, therapeutic process. It's like a process, but it's like a practice. It's like a yoga. You just do it all the time because it makes you feel better. You get things out and you are creating and you are proud of it and you feel better about yourself when you do it. And then you live through the world for a couple more days, go to school or whatever you got, and you start to not feel so great. And then you're back there in front of the cassette 4 track with your little things, drums, toy drums, a guitar, a tiny amp. Maybe I think I had a crybaby and a delay pedal at the time. And I had my drum set up, so I would mic them and just play, and then do guitar over
Like
it and
an acoustic
keyboard.
set.
An acoustic guitar. No, I had an electric guitar. I had a
No, I meant an
synthesizer.
acoustic drum set. An acoustic drum set. I didn't know.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you
yeah. Just
guys
like a
have been doing a
little.
lot of electronics from early on. That's why I was asking for you specifically.
No, that would be like in the early '80s, and I wouldn't have been
All
able
right.
to afford a electronic. And I, I mean, I had some little metal box that had a leather pad with a bullseye on it, and that you could hold a button down, and if you could get a microphone into it, you had to have the adapters and everything because it wasn't the microphone wasn't the 3 prong XLR with its professional microphones have. It was just a plug. So somehow I figured that out, and it would record one sound. So you could hold the button down and then clap, and so you could have a
Yeah.
boom to pop to boom, clap clap, and yeah. So I would just make. So I've been making music, and I don't know if you noticed our 30 seconds long songs that we did during COVID. We released.
Well, we had talked about that last time. Actually, so people are, I just, we didn't, I don't do an official intro. People aren't aware, Courtney, we're talking about the new Rock Maker Remaker album,
Hmm.
but I don't want to interrupt you because this is such a great intro. But when we spoke last time, a big thing you didn't
Oh,
go,
right,
didn't
right.
see the
This you don't
first
edit
section.
this together
I was
and
going to edit. I was going to edit the
do
beginning and do it straight ahead, but this is how life is. So people check this out. This is really great because in COVID, I want people to check the interview. You were recording all the time. You had challenges every
yeah,
day as an artist.
yeah.
So yeah, expand on that better.
And we released a 30 seconds long song once a week, like every Friday, Fast Fridays. And that was what I did uh, and still do, just as that's about how long my personal therapy songs end up.
Yeah.
It's about 30 to 50 seconds long. And then writing more lyrics would be too difficult, and I start to feel phony and it feels forced. So I have to wait or just leave them forever, on a cassette tape or in a
Yeah.
hard drive now. Uh, but yeah, that's why I guess we still do this, is because I mean I feel great. I'm hungover, but I'm so happy. I feel really great because we got some amazing work done last night. And then we just sat and drank wine and listened to it back and tweaked little things that perfected. And
Mhm.
we've got another amazing piece of music that's not like anything we've ever done.
You evolved so much and like listening to you and appreciating you through different levels of my life. It almost feels like when you get to a song, it would be almost perfectly in the world of commercial pop radio. Like you write something, it almost feels like you could do that, but in a way if you don't, you always go kind of tweak it here a little bit differently to use your own phrase, because I it has your own feeling to it. Like you don't. Um, it's always something that's just a little off from being total commercial, but your songs are so, and I mean that a
Right.
compliment. I don't
Yeah,
mean you're like
yeah.
going for that for the gold star. I mean you can take it and you can be like, this would be a perfect thing. I can see an AR guy going, that's great. Well, take out that little fuzzy part, or take that little thing out. You're like, no, that's the part of the song we're building from. Like it feels like there's always a little left or right turn in there, extra.
Yeah, it has to be, I guess, or we would feel like we're not doing anything, you know. I mean, David Bowie asked me why I want to be the first to do everything. He said, "Why do you have to be the first to do everything? It's so much more profitable to be the second." And I don't
That's
know
a
what
great
I
quote.
yeah, I don't know what I answered him at the time because I thought, God, I thought everybody just was trying to be the first to do, but really that's not true. People aren't really trying to be the first to do to do anything.
Especially on
Only
the internet nowadays.
only certain artists are, and I think it's what drives me to steer it in that direction is it's more uh, exciting and it's
Yeah.
more deeply penetrating if it isn't uh, showing certain trends, current trends in
Mhm.
music recording styles and techniques and sounds. If it isn't doing that, it's a cleaner experience, and I can give myself into it wholly. Whereas if I hear like a really cool piece of music, but it sounds like, you know, like during the Strokes era when everybody was trying to be the Strokes, or the Jack
Mhm.
White era when everyone was trying to be Jack White. No matter how good the song was, if it reflected a desire to glom onto
Right.
the trails that these bands were paving, uh, I couldn't open my heart to it. I couldn't fully enjoy it. You know, I'd listen to it and go, oh, yeah, that's good. You know, maybe study it a little bit and go, oh, that's a clever turn of phrase. I love this melody right here. But I
Right.
couldn't just, you know, yes,
Yeah. But you, so
o-
you do get what I'm
open it
saying, that
up.
it's, in a compliment sort of way that you don't, you're like, musically, you always do put it a different way. Like they're like, oh, if you just kind of pulled back the distortion and did this, it would be a big hit single. You're like, well, that's not the song I wrote. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it,
Well, the
is it,
production, what you're talking about is production. You know, what the and the instruments are really there to provide the lighting, the texture of the walls, the size of the room, or the outdoor space, or whatever. And it should set you up emotionally to really be able to understand what the vocalist, or maybe it's just got a trumpet part as the lead, the melody is a sax player the whole time, whatever.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to have lyrics, but whatever whatever the testimonial is, whatever whoever's making the testimony,
Right.
and it can be, and it should be a little bit odd. It should be. We had an engineer that would always refer to it if I got there vocally, there he would go, "That's some bizarre testimonial," and I really appreciated that because it really does need to be a fresh, uh, you know, speech. uh, you do want to touch on and use maybe a little bit of language that other people don't or have not quite done it this way yet. So that, you know, because I try to be a prose writer. I'm not that poetic. I don't really do decorative language so much. I like to hold a mirror to reality. That is sort of my job in my mind. Uh, so I do want to hold a mirror to an angle that shows my personality disorders, and maybe a successful way that I've learned to deal with one or more of them in per song, or just a way to look at the world a little differently, or other people and their strengths or weaknesses that grate on you or affirm you or whatever the shit is you're trying to talk about. It should be holding it a mirror to reality at a slightly different angle than you've had heard anyone else do it. You know, you are unique. Everyone is.
I hear that, and you're right. That it is the production, it is, but there's something about your songwriting, and I love it. And those turns and those things are what I love about you as a songwriter and your music.
Thanks.
So I know each album, you're welcome. It's like I know I'm not going to get the same thing each album or whatever.
Right. I know. We're
And
reactive. We react to our own records.
I love that.
We recoil from our own records.
I want a band to go out there and take a chance and fail. If it fails, I embrace it. It's a bummer for the band if they don't hit with their mark, but I love the fact they took a chance. That's exciting as an
Well,
artist.
that's not to, if I talk about David too much, it sounds like I'm name dropping or I'm hung
Oh,
up
but
on
David's
him.
a good reference for the world though, because most people know David Bowie's songwriting. The fact.
Yeah, and but people don't really think about how many failures he created. And we talked about that a lot because of this same issue. Why do you want to be the first to do everything? It's so much more profitable to be the second. And he really thought he was being the second, but who, what did Heroes sound like? What did Space Oddity sound like? Who did he think he was ripping off when he did these things? Because whoever it was, it got buried in the mix. It's gone.
Yeah.
Those sound like very distinct and unique pieces of music. Most of his hits were uh, kind of just stood out there by themselves. Just a weird dude
I
and
love
bizarre
listening to his old albums,
testimonial.
you know, that aren't hits. I love those old albums because they're just
Yeah,
so
and he had
different.
failure after failure because he did experiment every single time. I mean, he was so he had, huge, multiple years where he would release and think he was going to have big hits,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't. They would kind of pop into maybe a few radio stations around the world for a minute and go away. And he said he was always so disappointed in that. Um, but I always felt like, well, then why are you experimenting? Don't if you really are, if your self-esteem is getting hurt by not having hit songs, then sell out. So try it, see if it works. But yeah, it was funny. That was a funny few years, but it helped me to deal with the commercial failure, which I don't think I took that as seriously as he did, just because I
I think
didn't.
it came up at a different time though too, like musically. Like his
Yeah, I mean, he had huge hits, and I
huge.
guess if you did have huge hits right off the bat in your, when Ziggy Stardust, that was a massive, massive record. But I guess he was Davy Jones in the lower third before that, and
I've read some books on him. He was really struggling for years, and his whole life has been aiming for that star. I mean,
yeah,
luckily he hit it on the way out again. His last couple albums, I think, and it goes back to you and most people as an artist. If you can really just put out your best, whether it's commercial or not, it's not such a success if you can understand that.
you can't. Yeah,
But
that's the machine decides that
right,
for you.
I call
I
record
don't think
labels
you
the
can.
banks. You know what I mean? They're nothing to you. They're just a bank. The record labels are just banks. So
They are the promotional machine. They are
right,
the decider. They are the decider whether they're going to try to show this piece of music to hundreds of millions of people or maybe tens of thousands of people. That is a faucet that they can turn up. It costs them a lot of money the more you turn it up.
right,
So, but it does work. Record labels have forced songs to be hits.
for years.
Yeah. So I don't know that I don't know that any artist can actually control that. You know, you're
I think someone's done better though. Without, I know people have avoided certain promotions over the years lately. I think with like shows like this, like different podcasts and radio stations, and there's different things that allow people to go independent music. You're not gonna get the same success. I don't think radio's got the same success unless you're Mariah Carey. I mean, when you
Yeah,
do,
my
that's a
heroes
different
were
world.
my the biggest hero band of my life was Love and Rockets.
Ah,
And
they should have been bigger.
I just figured if I got as big as Love and Rockets, I would be happy. They weren't, they were playing the same size venues for years and years and years. That 800 to 1200, 650 in a
Yep.
smaller city. And 2000, 1500, 2000 people in like LA. I just thought that would be great. And in my in our era, that 90s heyday of MTV, you could make a very good living off of being an artist, uh, and being at that size and staying at that size. And we've been, slightly bigger than that for a number of years and then just shrunk back down. and we're there, and all these bands that you see the names, you go, oh, I forgot it, that band, and they're coming through town, you know.
Mhm.
We're all stuck at this one level of size of venue, but you can do it, and you can, you know, you can make a living off it. But you don't have to go, you know, be a barista or do, you know, learn another trade or, you know, fix HVAC or, you know, which
You're
are,
doing what you want to do, which is success. That's what I'm saying. I agree. I think it's a success. You're paying your
yeah,
bills. You're doing
yeah,
music. That's success.
yeah. I don't think we came up in an era where you expected to be um, huge. You know, I don't think we really ever expected it. And that could have been why we never really achieved it too, because we
You
wouldn't, you
guys
know,
came about at a weird time, though. The fact you survived through it is a testament to the band, to
yeah,
fluidity,
yeah,
and to tenacity, and then just the songwriting.
yeah. It's hard. It's hard keeping people together, and we're all fairly spoiled by this. You know, we did get, um, you know, everything was free, designer clothes, and
Free is a great price.
you know, just food and drinks, wine,
Mhm.
parties, travel. Everything was just pretty cushy, and then people treat you differently when you're quite famous. You're listened to, and you're allowed to speak, to talk without stopping, and a lot of that kind of shit. So
Yeah.
keeping for people that are kind of have cranked up egos and really dramatic self-esteem issues and demands, it's hard. We all have to shut up and suck it up, and you know, if we have issues with each other, you got to shut up and sweep it under the carpet, and you got to, you know, you got to get a nap and wake up and ignore that it ever happened. There's that blow up ever happened, or that rudeness, or that completely selfish, horrible shit. You did not just see that. That did not just, you know, you,
Yeah.
all that stuff, you know, you just, God, it's hard, man. We've been together for over 30 years.
It seems so that you guys have somewhat of a healthy dynamic. And I say someone I can't, I'm not assuming like people's relationships, but like when I talked to Zia not recently, you're talking about albums and stuff, like certain albums hit each band members differently. And she was saying, oh, this album, I think it wasn't hitting her right or whatever. And you're like, that's okay. Not every album is for each of us are always going to hit the same. You said something in such a great way to her. It
Mm,
showed like you being outside of yourself and outside the band in a way, but a team
mm,
member. It struck
yeah,
me as more than just the statement itself. Like it's a
mm,
big picture type of musical family, you know?
hope so. Yeah,
It
right
did
now
to
we're
me, and
making
I think that's what
Zia.
you took it. It was nice. It was a nice
Yeah,
gesture, and it was nice.
last year Zia said she didn't want to. I really don't want to make another, you know, teenage boy rock record.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, well, I don't think any of us want to make another rock maker, you know, because when you take a concept and make it and stick to a concept, it is so limiting, that it's harder to remember that this is awesome. You know,
Hmm.
exploring inside of a framework is as cool as exploring outside it. It's just harder. After the third song, you know, we have to do the same kind of thing again. We have to stick to this framework, and so now we've stuck another framework on our new record, which is soft and relaxing and sweet and
That's the one you're working on right now. The new one
yeah,
you're working on.
and dreamy.
Okay.
Yeah, and Fathead just showed up. So yesterday was the first day with Fathead, and God, it just injected so much more enthusiasm and interest into it, because Peter and I uh, have been working. Zia's been in a couple times. Um, she's, you know, she's a scheduling nightmare, so you can't really count on her to get into the studio every
Yeah.
time. But Peter and I just do, and I'm not sure why. But Pete and I were like, I'm running out of inspiration. I just want to make a jangly pop 1964 song again, or you know, want a twangy surf guitar, or what, you know, just God,
So what?
it's hard. It's hard. So our I'm already thinking about the next record, which will be like Why You So Crazy, like our traditional records, which are just
Yeah.
like you know, some kind of weird interpretation of a country glam rock song followed by jangle 60s Britpop, shoegaze, by sludge space rock. It'll just be a hodgepodge of whatever multiple personality disorder shit we come up with. But
You
right
should keep
now
touching on that. What
we're
did
done with
the
theme
rock thing?
with the concept
Well,
albums for a while after this, I'm
what
sure.
about so? How did this come about? So we're talking about Rock Remaker. Obviously, the album that just come out, and this is we're talking about the EP, which is fun. It's a fun remix.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because it was so close between the two, and you're already working on something different.
Well, you know, doing a remix is you just call out to your buddies that are good at doing remixes that you like, or, you know,
Hmm.
and I think Trent is the only guy on there that we're not friends with. We just liked his stuff,
Right.
and everyone else is like people we like their stuff, so we've been friends with them for 15 years or whatnot. Mark Brooks from Nightclub, I hang out with. Yeah, he and his girlfriend every time they come through town. We go out to dinner. We hang. We talk music. We go to the studio sometimes, fuck around. So that's Pete has stayed tight with the Place Very Strangers guys.
Hmm.
And so that's that kind of thing. Andy Bell. Um, I just recently met him, but we've
Excuse me.
known we Pete's known him and stayed in touch with him. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how that happens. We keep it pretty insular, and all the, like, getting Debbie Harry, getting Slash, getting Charles Tom Black Francis, getting those guys on the record. Those are all people we've hung out with and we know, and
Right.
we know how to get a hold of them, and we've hung out with their
But it was interesting to have such an
managers.
EP so close, because the
Is
mix
it
is good, and well, for this album, well, I only say it for me because that
exactly
album
one
itself
year?
is it.
Exactly
Well,
1 year.
the mixes of the songs, because those songs aren't ordinary just ABC songs you hear on the radio anyhow. So not only do you kind of do another mix of them, it would be different again, another person interpret it because they're already so
Yeah,
different. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So now
yeah,
there's like two versions of different songs out there. So to me, there's
yeah.
some songs that need this
Well,
treatment.
I
You
think
know,
that's quite normal, and on this kind of the dreamier, soft, sonically unaggressive record we're making now, we're counting on remixes
I love this
because
remix album.
some of these tunes want uh, just a just a pumping groove, and
Yeah.
it's all an implied groove because we're not putting aggressive drums in, we're putting
Mhm.
quiet drums. But you figure the Cubans and the Africans have been doing it without a rock backbeat and making people go completely mental, uh, you know dancing and partying to music that doesn't have a traditional rock beat. So it's it's interesting because we're we're organizing our rhythms. I was a drummer for my entire life, and I played in jazz lab, I played in marching band, I played in symphonies, and so I'm really having to apply my skills as orchestrating percussion, not being a guy who used to be a rock drummer, and Fathead's a great rock drummer anyway. So so I'm having to boom, and you get in that long enough, and it does make you just, with the melodies and the harmonies, and it does have its own way of you know really taking control of your body,
Mhm.
and it's pretty it's pretty cool. But I'm going to want all of these things to be remixed with just bazooka to the dance floor beats, or some whatever people
Yeah.
come up with. That'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, and I'll be kind of more aggressive about it. This one was definitely Pete spearheading the remix record.
I think it's good. I heard it and I was like, because I hear some sort of remix. I'm like, yeah. When this came down in my mailbox, I was like, oh, it's cool. I checked it out. I was like, oh, I gotta talk to him. This is good. This is good because
Right?
they don't, not all remix albums just jump out at me because usually I like the original album. It's usually close to the date. It doesn't add a lot more to it. You know what I mean? To me,
Mhm.
depending on who's mixing. Not saying you, I'm saying in general as an artist when you do remix stuff.
Yeah, I don't really listen to remix records, and
So I'm very particular about. I don't just like love everything, but
no,
when I heard this one, I was like, oh, I like this. This is even kind of a
good.
different kind of a group to sit down. Like it's affiliated with the songs and it honors them, but it's not locked into that same code,
Yeah, I really
which is
love
nice.
Andy Bell's version of Alcohol Cocaine. That is like,
Yeah.
I was like, wow,
I think the first time I heard that from
that's a
that, I played it
remix.
3 times in a row. I looped it 3 times in a row that first time I listened to that
Oh,
one.
good. Yeah, because that I probably did too, because
It's
I remember
haunting.
listening to it. Great place to go in your head. It just takes you there. Really
It just
good.
repeats in my head for like days. So
Good.
no. I want to honor your time though. I know we got a short window.
What time is it now? How long's
I
that
don't even have a
been?
clock in front of me myself here. I have to turn over. I want to take a quick look here. It's hold on. Bear with me here. Almost 12:27.
Oh, okay, cool. So
So I want to do a
five,
cycle. I'll wrap up. We'll wrap up real quick then.
yeah,
I'll give you your half
five,
hour.
10 minutes would be great.
Yeah.
And then yeah, got to fit in a dog walk, and then I've got to walk to work because I don't drive anymore, and it's good. It's great to walk. It makes me very happy to walk. I try to walk 5 miles a day if I can,
Wow.
and it's
Good for
two
you.
miles to the studio, and
Wow.
uh, and then I just
It's,
it's all flat down there in Portland. It's very flat, you know, town.
has it
So
gotten different though?
you
Like
can
when
just
people come.
walk for miles. I just don't. You don't even feel it. You can walk all the way across town just to go get coffee and just happy, pretty much happy the whole time. Little bobbling head and arms swinging, and it's a great vibe, man. It's the
How is it
best.
you being in Portland when people recognize you? Is it weird for people still?
Oh no, not that. We never really got that famous, and at this point, we're just, it's 30, it's 25 years past our moment in history. Where we were, a prime mover, changer of things. We affected a lot of international publicity, and our faces were everywhere, but not really as much in America. So in 2003, um, walking around in London, you were going to get people yelling, "Hey, mate!"
Yeah.
You know, heroin's so passe. I love heroin. Shit like that. We did have
That's a crazy chant. No matter where you're
yeah,
getting, no matter what time period that's at. Okay, thank you, Lou Reed.
yeah. Somebody yelling out the car when we love heroin. They drove by us on Kensington High Street. That was in the kind of later 90s. That was funny. And then Bohemian Like You was huge. But yeah, then we couldn't really go walking around anywhere. We'd have to, you know, do selfies with people all the time. But now I don't think anyone really thinks about it.
I think it's almost
It's
better.
very rare when somebody goes, "Oh, mate, you're the guy from the Dandy Warhols, huh?" You know.
That's kind of cool, actually. I would think. I mean,
Mhm.
getting recognized all the time would be kind of a pain to just live your life. I mean, I think
Well,
it'd be
yeah, yeah.
nice to just not have that happen,
You want to
actually.
do something, you're lost in your own head, and you're
Yeah.
constantly having to be pulled out of it to listen to somebody's story about how their sister got sick and didn't go to the show in '98, and then she got the ticket, and then her boyfriend was going anyway, and then oh my god, and then we had the best night, and da, da, da. Like I always have to think, how do they want me to react to oh my god, no way, like that. Is that what you're looking for? I don't know. I
Oh, I,
can't tell, but I want to give it to them, whatever they want, whatever the reaction. They're like, no way.
I think you're appreciative, but I think
That's
you're a real person.
amazing.
You
Thanks.
know, like you're a real person. You care and you appreciate it, but at the same point, it's odd.
It's a bit
You know,
forced.
it's people are odd. People like see interviews and they're like, "You're the best singer ever." How do you feel? You're like, "How am I supposed to feel? What is that a question or a statement?" Like, I think
Yeah.
as a musician, you guys get put in these weird spots. And I know people that'll be like, "Oh, you talked to so and so. What were they like?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's like talking to you. I mean, they're nice and I respect them. Just like if I was to know horses and somebody made horse saddles, it'd be a great conversation. But that's
Right,
it.
right.
Like to me, I
Saddle
don't get the
soap.
whole
We
thing.
can
But
talk about
people,
the quality or lack of quality in saddle soap.
yes. But
A
it's
conversation everyone can get involved in. Um,
I can't tell you how many times I've had that today.
I
Yeah.
already, I yeah, I was you know, Steel Panther.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
My buddy, it's like his favorite guitar player in the world is Satchel,
Satchel. Yeah.
and I know him a little bit, so I I I said, hey, can I bring my friend back to, can you sign?
Mhm.
He bought your Satchel signature model guitar. Can you sign it for me? Yeah, okay, cool, great. So I bring my buddy back there, and he's like, I've never seen him nervous. He's a really relaxed, chilled dude. You know, he builds houses, and he's just kind of
Yeah.
a man in charge kind of guy. And he just got so awkward. He pulls out his phone. He goes, "Oh man, I got to show you this," and he's starting to show Satchel uh what was it? It was when they pulled his girlfriend on stage 6 years ago in Phoenix at the show, and it, I was like, I kind of had to tap him and go, you know, you know, it's exciting. He goes, oh right, you know, he goes, ah, don't worry about it. But I thought that was funny, you know, you just get so filled. What would I say to Robert Smith if I was to run into him again? You know, like I wouldn't know, what do I talk about? Last time I
Well,
saw you when we sat up in Greece or whatever. You know, if you run into your heroes, you kind of want to unload your love of them and your experiences around them and their music, you know, which mean nothing to them. It means nothing to them. It's your life. You know, it's not Robert Smith's life. The only connection is that his music was playing during that
true.
moment, you know. And we had your, yeah, it's a weird thing. I'm really glad that I'm glad that I don't have to deal with the, you know, being famous and having to, you know, everyone has to sit down in a movie theater before, you know, if Robert Smith wants to go to a movie,
Right.
everyone has to sit down, lights have to go out, and then he gets walked in, he
Yep.
has to sit in the front row.
And then we're looking at you. That would be
And
weird
his
for
neck and
me.
his neck hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Peter went to a movie with David in like Vienna or something, and he said that's how it goes down. That's how famous people have to go to movies.
That would be
It,
horrible.
it's
I,
horrible.
it's more like if I mean a
You
musician,
can't go to
yeah,
dinner unless you can get a private room, you know.
everything's a performance with you. It's you in the and it's hard. Like and I've said, I'll see a musician I know and I've done the show and I've done other things with them. When I see them in person, it's always over a conversation and they're like, "Oh, hold on a second, and come back and we'll over talk, whatever." And I'm like, "You got a lot of people here. I'll come back. This is kind of a not my thing. It's not like you know what I mean." I'm like, people want to spend their memories with you right now, and I'm just it's a little different the way I talk to people. You know what I mean? It's not my thing, and I appreciate it and they respect it, but I'm like, we'll talk after. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it
you have to, and I mean, it comes with the territory. I remember famous people complaining about that, and I can't place what era. I think it was when they were doing short interviews, like 30-second clips of like on MTV, because MTV
Mhm.
was really you know, probably the best era of history that I can think of, the best era of my life, the best era of culture. You know,
It
they
had an
really
overlap though.
inserted.
Don't you remember that though? Because I'm gonna be 55, so we're probably close in age. Where it was
Yeah,
like
yeah, we're the same age.
it
Yeah.
carried over the 70s. It touched obviously it was the 80s, but like certain genres all overlapped into the 90s a little bit. Like so everything was kind of there. You
Yeah,
know.
but it also, they put
Mhm.
filmmaking and imagery moved to a higher level and
Yeah.
got disseminated deeper into the entire world. People knew who great photographers were. They knew who great filmmakers were more than ever. It was crazy how, I mean, they paid for David LaChapelle to make a tiny spoof on Baby Jane, Who's Afraid of Baby Jane? Is that the
Yeah.
movie with and he used Courtney Love and Madonna to act in it, screaming at each other and dressed like old hag exploitation films, you know. And I mean, that's like him pulling out this great, you know, queer cult film from the 60s, maybe. Baby
Yeah.
Jane. It was kind of like when all those ladies, it was Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, I believe, is who was in it. And that's like just put on MTV and shown several times a day to everybody in the
Yeah.
world. It was so artsy. It made the world my favorite world, and that I can think of in history. That what MTV did to the world made it my favorite version of the world that I know.
That's actually a fascinating thought. I hadn't thought about all the cult in that time window that it was MTV, the music channel. You know, it was
Yeah,
short though.
about
It
20
feels like there's
years.
not. It you know, it was. You know, you don't think about it, but a lot came out of that time period of the
It
videos.
was, it was spectacular. We could change politics,
Yep.
you know. Um, I don't know that, free Nelson Mandela. That was a MTV got, way into the South Africa thing, getting rid of apartheid. They
Yep.
had, I mean, you get that much power, the Bruce Springsteen and U2 and everybody just hammering. I'm not going to play Sun City. We're not
Okay, yeah, I was
going
gonna say Sun
to.
City. That video was on all the time. I mean, you
We're
would
not
never see
going to
that
your. We're
anywhere.
not going to your fucked up racist country. We're not dealing with your bullshit, right?
Hmm.
And um, and it was just a constant hammering because MTV was omnipresent on planet Earth. Yeah, it was a powerful, powerful thing. It was amazing how powerful it was. It it
And it was a good power at first.
it pretty much seemed like it until videos weren't keeping anybody anymore, glued to the television set. So they had to start, doing angry teenagers getting, into fights and
I think people got tired
arguments.
of the videos on the hills and the mountains with the eagles while they were singing around them. I think too many of those videos got out there, and it wasn't as powerful anymore. You know.
The Slash on the cliff playing a guitar solo
Yeah.
and not plugged in on a cliff.
But the first
Yeah,
couple of
that
those were
was the
like, that's
most.
kind of cool. And then the 18,000 after that, you're like, oh, for God's sakes.
Yeah, the mountain's majesty, uh, glory of rock videos definitely got like.
I always say one of something is good, but a lot is creepy. Like ladybugs. One ladybug's good. A lot of ladybugs, nightmare. Same thing with rock videos. Just gonna put that out there.
Okay. Well, the ladybugs thing, you have to unleash a lot of ladybugs to eat the bad bugs that
I know, but
eat
just
your leaves.
visually,
You eat
just
the leaves on the trees. I can't remember what those are called, but we have to ladybug bomb our trees at the
oh
studio
really?
every year. Yeah, it's coming
Oh, yep.
right up because the little bugs that eat the leaves, they drool out the sticky goo, and so the sidewalk, your feet stick to the sidewalk, and then that gets
Oh.
walked into the studio, and it gets in the carpet and on the floors, and it's really hard to get up.
All right.
So
So
we
point
have the
taking. You still.
ladybug. So don't use the ladybug. Lots of ladybugs is creepy. Not to me. It's salvation if you get it in time to get all those bugs eaten. The ladybugs are hungry and they will eat all of those bugs.
Point taken. So you get my point though, and you're also the first person to ever shut that one down. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
sorry about that. You
No, no,
maybe
no. It's
maybe say
still.
grasshoppers.
Oh, that's even one grasshopper can be creepy to me though, because they're just pure
They're
destruction.
really, yeah.
They're just destruction.
They're very HR Giger.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. You'll have to post some pictures when you guys do the ladybug thing up on your Instagram for anybody now to hear it.
One furry is cute. Lots of furries,
Yeah.
creepy.
Uh,
Cool, man. Good to see you
Pleasure
again.
chatting again. We'll talk again. Take care, man. You have a good time.
Cool.
Take
Have a
care.
good day.